backwards just to make it easy because it was tough trying to record down here while I was removing the tank. To make myself some room, I did end up taking out the rear drive shaft. Also, then I took off this plastic cover. This goes at, on the bottom of the tank. It's only actually held in by 3 bolts here on the side, and then this part here just wraps onto the heat shield that's still on the tank. So I got that stuff out of the way. Now, that line didn't have to come off, but I took it off. That's where your evap line will go into. This is where the one goes up to the engine. Fuel tank lays right in its home is right here in this area. And all it's held in by is these straps here, which get installed by, let me show you just how they're installed. They can kind of just go a little silly like that, and then they lock into place, and then they bolt right up to this point here when you're putting in the tank. The easiest way I found out to do it was I ended up using a motorcycle jack under the center of the tank, and I would jack it up that way. And then as I'm jacking, I gotta be careful because I gotta run my fill tubes, my fill neck, should be right in this area, right about here. And then also, while I get it so high, what makes it easy with the drive shaft now is I can get my head up in between the exhaust and the tank once it's here to plug in these connectors right here, which that one's there for the fuel pump and sending unit, and this one here is for the fuel tank pressure sensor. I'm actually in the first one. The other strap will go right here, and then same thing at bolt, and there's the bolt hole there for it. So to get the straps out, they're a little like you just gotta, that's it in, and then you just kind of weave them and they come right out. We have this 07 Chevy Silverado, if you want to show the truck.
It's actually a 07 and a half, so a new body.
It's a newer body style 07. The problem was it was leaking fuel, and so we took out the tank because we already verified where the leak was. We had to disconnect a few lines here to take it out. You got your evap line at the bottom here, and then you got this goes up to the engine there. That's your fuel line feed. Also, that's the vent and your fill neck. These go like side by side. Instead of trying to take this off in the truck, I figured it was easier for me just to take it off at the fill neck. I had more room to work, so I just pulled the hoses through that way and dropped the tank. What happened was the whole sending unit, I mean, it's dry now because we didn't get to it. It was like about 2 days ago when we found the leak. But when you turn on the key, pressurize the system, this was leaking. This was completely wet and dripping down the side. You can probably still see the stains on the side where it was all leaking. So this thing actually rusted out. You can see these fittings look like hell. We're going to replace that whole sending unit. It's a whole pump. Yeah, it's a whole pump unit, I believe, that goes in there. So we're going to clean this all up. You gotta get the retaining ring out, and that's what we're gonna do. We don't have the actual spanner wrench. I just use a hammer and punch, and then once we spin this, the whole sending unit will lift out on it. Okay, what we can see is I just touched this, and that's the pressure side. I'm surprised the truck even made it up here this far and stayed running. You can see that's pretty much busted off. I gotta see if I can save that fitting. I don't know if I can or not.
That one's broke too.
Yeah, I'm gonna try seeing if I can save these fittings, but I'm not sure. I might have to get all new fuel lines too. You're supposed to slip over, and then you're supposed to be able to push this in and release it, but I still got some fuel line in there, so I'm going to see if I can dig out the rust out there. As you can see, this just broke off because how rusted it is. As you can see, we have a lot of problems with these lines totally rusted off. One recommendation I have for doing this that we didn't do is to have already had new evap lines ready to go, but we didn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sending unit out, replace it. We're going to actually cut the line back here and just run a piece of hose, like a regular vacuum hose, from here to the new one. And same thing with this. There's we're going to run a piece of hose off of this, hose clamp it on, and then it goes into this plastic line, and we're just going to cut it like back here and then clamp the hose right to this hardened plastic line.
Yeah, you can see right here, Chevy already did rubber hoses, so it's not like it's a gigantic
We were able
leak.
to save the main line. That was the most important, was the fuel pressure line. You do not want to modify that one. The evap lines, alright, we'll modify. It's not the best way to go, but it will work. So now we're going to pop off this sending unit. There is actually like a spanner wrench or so to take them off, but nobody ever has one, so we just use a punch, and you just want to spin this to release the sending unit and pump. See if we can get it to spin. Just keep tapping it. And there we go, it released. Yeah, you just want to go, like, you know, just around it, just to move it a little bit.
But make sure you clean around it, because it will be full of dirt and stuff. You don't want any of that going in your tank.
Once again, I'll take a blowgun real quick, just because I don't want any dirt getting in there.
One piece of dirt and a fuel injector will ruin your good time.
And there is only one way these things go in, because you can see there is a tab, so it's not like you have to mark them or remember how they went. And then the springs will push up.
There's a pan right behind you.
And there's your sending unit. I'm just going to put it right in the drain pan, because there is going to be fuel stored in here, as you can see. And that's it. Now we're just going to clean up this surface here and install the new sending unit.
Dang, I was hoping you'd get a mouthful.
Yep. Alright, we're getting right here to put this new fuel sending unit in. Comes with your flow. You just remember to hook that up, because otherwise you'll never know what your fuel level is. And the new O-ring. I'm just going to put some of this. You can use, you just want to always loop an O-ring. You can use, I'm just using this like Silverado stuff I got. You can use just about anything. Use Vaseline, will work. And we're just going to put the setting unit on. Let's see how this thing goes. You'll see it just line it up. Should be the way it goes. Flag part right here. It's going to line up right at this point. It's the only spot it's going to fit between, so you can't mix anything up. Oh, there it goes. My O-ring's in place. See, just make sure that groove's all cleaned out.
Hey, you got it!
Ring on. Right here. I think I'll clamp good.
I think so. If you go any smaller, you're going to have problems on the plastic end.
And I'm going to cut it here. And we're just going to piece in this piece of 5/16 hose just between making a repair for this hardened evap line to here. So we kind of just got to make sure it's tight. That's not going nowhere. And then I'm trying to clamp it down to this. See my yellow O-ring in there? And this thing here just clicks. And that's it for the fuel line. And I'm going to snap it in place. Actually, it's broken on the inside. You won't be able to see on the camera, but it's broke. And that's supposed to go here, but we're actually going to cut it off here and do the same kind of repair we did here. A piece of hose that goes from here to the straight part of the evap line. There we go. Half-inch hose on here, and we're going to make it go to, this is going to just slide. Over, and there we go. I just got to get another hose clamp, put it on here. And that's it.
You just want to make sure that, like, this is a little bit shorter than it really should be, but you want to make sure that that's not clamped shut, because if it is, you're going to end up with an evap.
Yeah, I would want that a little bit longer if I had some here. Where we are now, we got the new sending unit and pump all installed. Well, we ran into some complication with the old evap lines. As you can see, we put a piece of hose from here to here. We just cut it and just clamped it over. Same thing with this. Again, I recommend getting new lines, but this is what we're going to do on a late Friday night. These here go up to the fill neck. As you can see, that's the vent for it. That's the fill neck itself. These lines then run down. You got your one to the motor, and then one to the evap canister. Oh, the electric connectors, that's your fuel tank pressure sensor, and the one that does the sending unit, your fuel level and fuel pump.